So as of Daredevil Season 3, we have 11 seasons in the Netflix branch of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I thought that this little sub-franchise started out really strong, but then really lost a lot and is maybe able to make a comeback now. So as usual, this is just my opinion, my ranking. Please tell me your thoughts down below. Do you disagree? Do you agree? Why? So yeah, let's get started. At number 11 is Iron Fist Season 1. Now this season is not the worst thing ever, because there are good scenes in it. There just isn't really a main storyline. The characters are either really one-dimensional or just flat-out unlikable, and none of them have any motivations. Bakudo is a very underdeveloped villain. The Meachums are not likable at all. And Danny Rand is a very inconsistent character. He goes back and forth between being a man-child, a badass, and other things. As for the good, I'd say Harold Meachum is a pretty good villain. He's complex and David Wenham does a good job. And Ward Meachum is a very complex character, he's just not likable. At number 10, and I think this will be pretty controversial, is Luke Cage Season 1. The first half is okay. There are some strong characters, some good acting, and some good action scenes. I think that if they had kept the storyline set up in the first couple episodes, it could have become great. But the problem is the writers don't know exactly how to write Luke. Then the second half of this season hits an all-time low for this franchise. There's a laughable villain and uninteresting story. I can barely remember the second half, it's just so forgettable. At number 9 is Jessica Jones Season 2. I give this one a little pass due to the lack of source material. There's not that many Jessica Jones comics to pull from. There are some intriguing concepts introduced in the first few episodes, like Jessica competing against a rival detective. However, these concepts never come into play. Instead, we get a weird storyline about her mom and some other BS. The supporting characters like Malcolm and Trish have horrible character arcs. They just become flat out unlikable. The season really suffers from lack of a real antagonist. The arc involving Jerry Hogarth is okay, Carrie-Anne Moss gives a good performance, and it's more sympathetic than you'd expect. It just has trouble contributing to the main storyline.
At number 8 is going to be Iron Fist Season 2. This season improves over the first season, but still isn't great. Danny Rand is a lot more likable of a character. However, the other characters like Colleen Wing and the Meachums just really aren't. I like Davos as a villain, he's complex and the actor does a good job. The real standout of this season is Typhoid Mary. Alice Eve does a really good job and the character is very fleshed out. I think that cutting down the season to 10 episodes was a really good idea. It makes it feel a lot more concise and tight. The problem is Danny himself doesn't really have much of an arc. Then the season suffers from a lack of thematic depth. At number 7 is Luke Cage Season 2. The villain is really good. Bushmaster has a lot of screen presence and the actor is really charismatic. Mariah Stokes' arc is great. You know, I feel like it's something that a lot of people in that community can relate to. Shades is a great villain. He's so much more complex than in the comics. However, the good characters are just not very interesting. I like Mike Coulter as Luke Cage. He's just not a very compelling character. Misty Knight's just kind of boring. And this season drags a lot. This is the season that I feel the most suffers from filler. They could have trimmed off an episode or probably 3. At number 6 is The Defenders. The Avengers of the Netflix MCU was not quite as good as we'd hoped. There's some great dialogue and chemistry between the cast members. However, the story leaves a lot to be desired. There's some awkward pacing, like how the Defenders spend a whole episode sitting in a restaurant. The villains are not at all complex. They very much wasted Sigourney Weaver. The series got better as it went along, but it was still not great. I love the scene where the Hand realizes that Daredevil has come back, though. That was great. Here on out is the reason why the Netflix MCU developed this cult following. At number 5 is Daredevil Season 2. The first half of this season with the Punisher is great. It's arguably better than the first season. I love the dynamic between Daredevil and Frank Castle. The arguments between the two are very well written. Plus, the conversation they have at the graveyard is some of the most emotionally resonant stuff, not just in the Netflix MCU, but in the larger MCU as a whole. However, the second half with the Hand and Elektra is just not as great as the first. Elektra's not quite as fleshed out of a character as she should be. The Hand is very boring of a villain. Plus, there are a lot of questions that don't get answers. Plus, the season doesn't have a real villain, and that brings it down. These top 4 seasons are great. They are arguably the best things to come out of superhero television, and some of the best stuff put on the television medium ever. At number 4 is Jessica Jones Season 1. This season takes what was great about the Alias comic and amplifies it. Kristen Ritter is a great lead and carries the show very well. The side characters like Malcolm and Trish are pretty good. They manage to be flawed but still likable and relatable. The standout is David Tennant's Kilgrave. He's one of the best villains ever put on television. He doesn't have a world domination plan, he just has a terrifying power and a psychotic mind. They say that in order to make a good villain, you have to be able to sympathize with him or just completely hate him, and I love how he switches back and forth during the season. If I had to complain, I'd say that Luke Cage feels a little wasted. While I'll admit this is probably the best that the character has been written so far, his story arc is what causes the season to be unfocused. At number 3 is The Punisher Season 1. As soon as I heard that Jon Bernthal was going to play the Punisher, I knew that this series was going to be great. He's such a perfect fit for the role, and his portrayal is much more sympathetic than most. I love the chemistry between Frank and Micro. The actors bounce off each other really well. Who would have thought that Prince Caspian would make such a great villain? He's not the most complex villain in this franchise, he's easily the most despicable. I like the subplot about the soldier with PTSD. It ties the themes of the show together really well. The flaws are how the pilot doesn't really tie into the rest of the series. Also, they did a big bad switch with Agent Orange and Jigsaw, and I feel like that could have been handled better. Also, the Agent Madani character was not particularly great. I liked her partner more. All in all, the season is an adrenaline rush from start to finish. At number 2 is Daredevil Season 3. Now, I want to put this at number 1, but I just can't. This is exactly what I wanted out of an adaptation of the Born Again storyline. Vincent D'Onofrio returns with a triumph. Charlie Cox, Deborah Ann Wall, and Eldon Henson are all great in their respective roles. Even the side characters like Sister Maggie and Agent Nadim are great. The standout of this season is Bullseye. He's very complex but very hateable. This season is precise, focused, and an emotional roller coaster from beginning to end. However, at number 1 is Daredevil Season 1. The first is almost always the best. This season kicked off this franchise with a bang. Everything about this season, from the acting to the writing to the fight choreography to the theme music to the direction, is great. This is the template that most of the following seasons use. This season takes a lot of risks, killing characters that would be considered essential to the Daredevil lore. This was our introduction to Wilson Fisk, and it is great. Casting an actor of Vincent D'Onofrio's status, as well as his physical size, was bold, but it really paid off. Casting a relatively unknown actor in Charlie Cox as the lead character was also brave, but paid off incredibly well. This season is a masterpiece, one of the best things to come out of the television medium ever. The only reason why it's above Season 3 is because I think it has slightly more memorable side characters. For example, Leland Owlsley, James Wesley, Elena Cardenas, Ben Urich, they're all great. I love this season, and it cemented the Netflix MCU as something that will not fade away. So that's my ranking. Please tell me yours down in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'm sorry this video is late. I'm recording this a couple weeks after I finished Daredevil Season 3 just because I wanted to include my thoughts on the recent cancellations of Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and now Daredevil. As far as Iron Fist and Luke Cage go, I'm not going to miss the shows too much because they weren't great. I mean, there were things about them that were good, but they weren't fantastic by any means. I thought that they would combine them for Heroes for Hire, which I think would be a great idea. However, when they canceled Daredevil, that's when I really lost faith in Netflix. I just think that's a terrible idea. Because this is arguably Netflix's best original show, and this is the thing that kept people coming back to this universe was that show. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that Punisher and Jessica Jones are gonna get canceled as soon as they finish their seasons, and I don't know. There's been a lot of speculation that Marvel's either gonna move the characters to their streaming service, the Disney Plus streaming service, or they're going to move them to the movies. And my thoughts on that, as far as my thoughts on that go, I would love to see a TV and movie crossover. Maybe an adaptation of the Avengers Defenders War. I just think that'd just be great. But as far as moving them to the Disney Plus streaming service, I don't think that's a good idea. Um, because Disney, I know they're trying to be child friendly, and these shows, one of the reasons that they took this to the television medium and put them on Netflix instead of releasing theatrical movies based on these characters was because they are so adult and they're so not childish, so they could give them a strong TV MA rating. And yeah, so yeah, I'm disappointed in short. But so yeah, one more thing. As some of you know, I'm a college student and finals are coming up. So I'm sorry if I'm not as active as I usually am during these next couple weeks. I'll be studying. I'll be finishing my first semester. So yeah, I'll try to have reviews for Aquaman and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, as well as ranking videos for the Sony Marvel movies and the DCEU soon after, but it might be a while. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Um, so yeah, thanks. Be sure to subscribe. Bye.